for the streaming. Okay, we can start.
Good afternoon. Hello, and thank you everyone for being here with us today to join us with us the webinar organized by FAFCE, the Federation of Catholic Family Association in Europe, titled Family Antidote to Loneliness Beyond the Pandemic. So first of all, I would like to thank you, FAFCE President Vincenzo Bassi and Secretary General Nicola Speranza for having invited me to moderate this meeting, this significant meeting. I'm very glad and happy to be today here with you, even because today is a very special day for me and for the institutions that I represent. Today, because I represent the Family International Monitor and the John Paul II Institute for Marriage and Family Sciences, the Pontifical Institute that was founded exactly 40 years ago by John Paul II. So today we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of our foundation. That was exactly the May 30th of 1981, the day in which John Paul II suffered the terrible attack in St. Peter's Square. And so I am very, very glad to celebrate this day with you and hearing from the experiences of families all over the world. So not only from a Europe perspective, but from an international perspective that we are going to hear today. And I'm glad here also because we are going to celebrate the International Day of Families that will occur on Saturday, 50th of May in these days. So welcome to focus about loneliness. Loneliness, as we have seen in this terrible year of COVID emergency, is a deep disease of our era that the pandemic has highlighted so much. And as the Pope perfectly said before the pandemic, the loneliness is a most common disease in Europe, the loneliness of those who have no connection with others. And we cannot think about the words of Pope Francis that his voice loudly said during his speech last year on March, that said, nobody saves himself alone. So I'm very happy to introduce you to this important focus, remembering even the words of Vincenzo Bassi that wrote for our Observer, that now we have the opportunity to experience at first hand, thanks to the experiences of families, to hear the European reality, to disruptive emergency of families' loneliness. And so our task today can be to denounce the existence of this loneliness and calling everyone's attention to reality. So I would like to give the floor to Vincenzo Bassi for open this meeting for the introduction of this important issue. And I will just remember you that you can write down your questions in the QA box and not write the questions in chat because they will not be considered. So thank you very much, you all, and I give the floor to Mr. Bassi for an open address.
So thank you very much. I wish, first of all, to thank Monsignor William Shomali, Auxiliary Bishop of the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem and Vicar of Jordan. In fact, the idea of organizing such a webinar arose during an inspiring online exchange with him about his experience as a pastor during the pandemic and the fundamental role of the laity in building the church that he recognized even when it was not possible to go to the church. The Federation of Catholic Family Association in Europe, FAFCE, has a twofold mission. First of all, to represent families at the European Union and at the Council of Europe, bringing forward their voice from the perspective of the social teaching of the Catholic Church. And secondly, to inspire the development of family associations in Europe and beyond, a vocation that goes beyond Europe's borders, evidenced by FAFCE's 28 members associations from 18 countries in Europe. While our webinars up until now were mostly addressing the first aspect, the second aspect of our mission is the reason behind our webinar today. During this pandemic, it was clear, as was evident at the beginning of this unique historical period, that those who suffered the most were those who were far from their families or had lost them. Loneliness is the real pervasive pandemic of our times, one that has only been brought to light by the COVID pandemic. As underlined by European Commissioner Paolo Gentiloni and the European Commission Vice President, Madame Suiza, in an intervention in the Italian newspaper Avvenire last November, studies have shown that there is a link between loneliness and health problems in old age, which is particularly relevant in dementia, depression, and other aspects of psychological health. However, loneliness is not linked only to age, and an advanced age is not synonymous with being alone. In fact, more and more young people report suffering from it. We were happy to note that many institutions, from the UK government to the European Commission, are starting to become aware of these problems. But we know that the political solutions will never be enough. As Christians, we feel the responsibility of raising awareness of this issue in the political arena, namely because we are already working to overcome this profound disease, thanks to the daily work of our family associations and our networks of families. Tomorrow, for example, Pope Francis will open the General State on Natality in Rome, which will include the participation of the Italian Prime Minister, Mario Draghi. We look forward to hearing what Pope Francis will say about the demographic winter, which is a real concern for him and for all of us in Europe. However, we are not expecting easy solutions, neither from the institutions nor from the policymakers. In fact, we are already inserting away policymakers ourselves, in the sense that we feel responsible for the common good. We are already working, lobbying where we can, and trying to convince everybody that the family is the agent of providing care, not a sick institution in need of care. We are also working to make manifest that the real sickness is loneliness, exacerbated, and the loneliness now is increased not only by the current crisis, but also by individualism and consumerism. Families all over the world have been the hidden heroes of our times. They are managing to counter-react this disease by finding ways to break it down. And the key is in building new networks of solidarity. This means building communities, building family associations, and building networks of families. Only in this way will we draw closer to realizing intergenerational balance, which is essential for the integral and durable development of our countries. We have a lot to learn from each other, as I said before. For that reason, I'm also happy about the diversity of this panel. I hope that the different interventions will shine a light onto these dimensions of the discussion. I also hope that this discussion will allow us to see how families build up the church and our communities. In this respect, we support with great enthusiasm the foundation and the initiatives that advance the role of the family as an agent of community building and peace, especially for the Holy Land. We have this online conference during the Amoris Laetitia Family Year, which Pope Francis instituted so that those in the church may become custodian of the beauty of the family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bassi. Thank you for your introduction, and for your explanation of this important meeting that are meeting up the perspective of different areas, geographical areas. So I'm very glad to give the floor to Mrs. Szymanski, Marcela Szymanski, that is EU officer, academic researchers and editors at Aid to the Church in Need. Ms. Szymanski lives in Brussels, Belgium, and since 2011, she is the UN advocacy officer for the Pontifical Foundation Aid to the Church in Need, applying her 20 years experience as a media correspondent and public affairs professional to help the voice of the persecuted church to be heard among policymakers. Marcella is also the editor of ACN's report, Religious Freedom in the World, published every 2 years and covering 196 countries. I'm very glad to hear from Mrs. Marcella the condition of families in Middle East in general and in this difficult year that we passed. So I give the floor to Marcela Szymanski. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is really an honor to be part of your meeting today. Thank you for introducing the report and what is really the mandate of Aid to the Church in Need a little bit. Aid to the Church in Need, for those who have not heard of it. It's good to know. It's a foundation with a relatively narrow mandate to help the church materially when it's under situations of oppression, war or natural disaster, really to replace the material losses so that the church can continue helping the others, whoever they are, regardless of their background. Now, what I do for the foundation is do the advocacy like our friend Nicola Speranza does for FAFCE in Brussels. So in Brussels and in wherever the different institutions of the European Union can call us, and also towards the UN in Geneva and in New York, where I used to travel before the pandemic. Now everything is considerably less easy because of the difficulty of talking, as we all know. We talk about things that in principle nobody cares. So if we do not look them in the eye and tell them why they have to care, it's really, really difficult to convince. So yeah, you are talking about the loneliness of families, but also the loneliness of those who work for issues of the human rights, of the rights of the family, of the children, of the elderly. It's really, really hard not to be able to talk to people face to face. And we are grateful for every opportunity that we have to address on Zoom or whatever we can. Thank you very much. So as the editor of the report on religious freedom, which I have been doing already since 2015, I have overseen 3 editions. And I have seen the evolution of this right and how it's interlinked to other rights, of course. This, the right to freedom of conscience, thought, and religion is the Article 18 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, which is a nice big declaration of large principles to which nations subscribe on behalf of all the citizens that live in their territory, of course. Then there are other treaties like the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, where there's a little bit more detail about how the countries are adapting or should be adapting their laws to accommodate those human rights. So in the Article 18 of the Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, it is specified not only the text of the right to freedom of religion as we know it, but also one special mention about the rights of families to educate their children. Okay, so in this article of 18, it says that everyone is free to have or to adopt a religion, to live according to this belief in public and in private, alone or collectively. So there's not truth on those stories that religion is something private and you have to go behind your door and then I'm fine with it, otherwise I do not agree, etc. This is already a violation of the fundamental right to freedom of religion, to try to send you indoors. Then we have this situation of living according to your beliefs and convictions in public and in private. And that's where education and families enter. The Covenant of Civil and Political Rights specifies that the states who have signed this have to respect the liberty of parents or the legal guardians to ensure that religious and moral education of their children is in conformity with their own convictions. This article seems to be completely forgotten by many governments, and particularly the Western ones, because they think that they can just take away that freedom of the parents to educate their children according to their convictions and impose them the most bizarre classes like we see now in the UK and in many other countries of the European Union, where they send the children to the gay pride parade or something without having to ask the parents. This is a violation, okay, of Article 18 of that 176 countries have already signed, including all the countries of the European Union and the Council of Europe, okay? So this is something on the basis of that, that's how we make our decision in Aid to the Church in Need about what to call or not a violation of religious freedom. And in the course of writing this report, I come across very terrifying stories of families suffering for this violation of their right. Okay, most of the cases that I know and that they are in our report just published on the 20th of April are cases of families where there's a violent reaction because one of their members converted to another religion. So this is a very fundamental part of the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, to be free to change your religion. So this is what I find more often regarding families. But I also find how God's love finds a way to go to the souls amid the darkest of hours. So I chose a couple of stories to tell you that represent this situation in which the values that the children, as children, we learn from our families are the guiding light amid the darkest and loneliest hours to help us discern the most difficult situations and the most difficult decisions. Also, to move us to persevere in denouncing every violation of our rights as parents to educate our children in conformity with our own convictions. Let me tell you a story of a mother's and grandmother's love. It was 2018 in the Nineveh Plains in the north of Iraq. A Protestant chaplain in a small city hospital overheard a conversation. There was a very heavily pregnant, very young woman, almost a child, with her mother, and they were scheduling a birth by cesarean section. This pastor overheard and saw that the women in great distress, so he approached to ask them if he could be of any help. And the nurses helped them communicate. These women, the pregnant girl and her mother, were Yazidis. The Yazidi girl had been gang raped by ISIS militants almost 9 months before. And she was going to have a baby, but she was very small, of course, and then she needed a cesarean section. And that's how he heard, but then the mother started crying and the girl also. What happens was that the men of the family, according to tradition, they were waiting for the birth to kill the baby by machete as soon as he was born. So the pastor was so shocked and knowing that he was totally alone in that small village in the Nineveh Plains, he placed phone calls, as many as he could, until he landed on us. And then there was a way in the very same day to find an arrangement by some sisters that were not living far, that they met the girl and the mother. They agreed actually to give the child on adoption. They convinced the mother of this heavily pregnant girl, fully knowing the mother that she would never see her grandchild again. She would have to let her daughter go away as well. She had to be taken away out of Iraq as soon as possible. And probably she also had to do. So with this heavy burden in her heart, but knowing that guided by the love to her daughter and knowing how much she had already suffered with the gang rape and everything, she was not going to let her go through the trauma of having her baby killed in front of her. So she agreed, they agreed, and it was a complete operation of really to make a film. The sisters agreed with the hospital that they were going to give the hour of the operation of the cesarean section, but that they were going to tell the family another hour later, several hours later. So with this deception, they managed to get there to the hospital, take the baby, and run away as soon as possible to the other village, already with a paper signed by the girl. And then another team came and took the girl and the mother to safety, because they had to take the girl out of Iraq as soon as possible. So this baby was taken to an orphanage and prepared for adoption. He was very, very quickly adopted by a Christian family. So this situation in which the mother of the girl, and so the grandmother of the baby, knew what was waiting for her when she returned to the Yazidi village, and still wanted to save her baby. I mean, overcoming all fears and beliefs that were against the human dignity, etc. She managed also to convince her daughter, who is now they are in the Americas, both the mother and the mother of the baby. So they are safe. The baby has been adopted. So that had a happy ending, because there were other families ready to adopt the baby, the girl, 15 years old, who had the baby, and the mother. So this solidarity in different levels is the example that we all want to convey when you feel terribly alone in those horrid times. I don't know, Valeria, can you tell me how much time I have, or I ate it already?
Few minutes, just 2 minutes, please.
Few minutes, okay. So I just tell another story very quickly, which is a little bit happier. It's about a Christ taking a family by surprise. In Christmas 2018, a Muslim family was having dinner in Palestine. It was any other day, and all of a sudden the father says, I have something to announce you. I have converted to Christianity. There was the wife, the 3 children, and then they said, me too. All of a sudden, they discovered that all 5 had converted to Christianity in secret, without telling one another. And they all have had visions of Christ or really meaningful conversations with Christians in Palestine, in one of the big cities. And this I heard from one of the convert girls. It was very, very impressive how, fully knowing that they deserve prison for at least 6 years if they abandon the Muslim faith, they still wanted to convert. And the best was this absolutely wonderful miracle that our Lord had prepared for them, that they all had converted to Christianity. And since then, they live as Christians in hiding in this huge Palestinian city, which is not Gaza, by the way, it's really in Palestine. And they are Christians in secret. They take turns to go to meet with the pastor or the priest that they have chosen. And that is the way that they have continued expanding the faith. They have not been rejected by everybody as they thought. And the first group that did not reject them was their own family. That's what I wanted to share with you, that in times of fear and persecution, and certainly loneliness, and certainly for this Muslim family in Palestine, they all thought that they were alone, and it wasn't the case. So thanks be to God, and let's pray for some miracles and see how we can help people like them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcela, and thank you for your witnesses that you are collecting for us, and how it's important for us to listen to this story, these experiences of families that are far from us, but we are improve our sensitiveness towards these families, to feeling us as a unique great family of human beings. So what these families lives in these days in this way had to care us. So thank you for your work that maybe sometimes is a little bit source of loneliness, as you said at the beginning, because it's very difficult even to work in this sense to support these families in that conditions and that countries. So thank you even for your work, so for your everyday work, and thank you for your presence here today. So let me present now the second perspective that we are welcome today. That is the Irish perspective. Irish perspective told us by Mrs. Maria Steen, that is a representative of family solidarity. Mrs. Maria Steen is an activist. She represents Family Solidarity, that is an Irish association that seeks to support, protect and promote family life founded on Christian marriage. She lives in Dublin with her husband and children, and she is a writer and public commentator on social, moral and religious issues. So, dear Maria, I give the floor to you to listen from you about the condition of families in Ireland in this period and in this emergency of pandemic.
Thank you very much, Valeria. I'd like to begin by greeting Monsignor William Hanna Shomali, who is participating in this conference today, and to thank the President of the Federation of Catholic Family Associations in Europe, Vincenzo Bassi, for the invitation to speak to you today from Ireland on what, for me, is an auspicious day. Today, my husband and I celebrate our 15th wedding anniversary. And a couple of months ago, we found out that we are expecting our 5th child. We were blessed to have the example given by our parents of a lifelong commitment, and by others, particularly those who prepared us for marriage in our pre-marriage course, in showing us what marriage means and how to live it. They were honest and open in sharing the difficulties they had to navigate in their married lives. And what we saw in them, though, were couples who were still married after 30, 40 years, with a lived history together, still holding hands, still touching, still intimate. And we decided that was what we wanted too. The last 15 years have confirmed me in my view that marriage is crucial for couples and for the world. Marrying my husband was by far and away the best thing I've ever done. Our marriage has brought us more joy than ever imagined. And together we feel that the graces of the sacrament of marriage have made us as a couple more than the sum of our parts. A reminder of the importance of marriage and family is timely after the last year and a half or so. The COVID pandemic through which we have all lived has exposed another pandemic, that of loneliness. Deprived of the usual social interactions, we have, like Noah, been forced to take refuge from the storm in our own arks. And it is the family that has kept those arks afloat. Life was especially hard for single people who couldn't meet up with family and friends, who could not reach out to others, who were starved of human touch. Those of us with families learned no longer to take for granted the embrace of our children. But why is it that so many suffer from loneliness? Why are so many living alone? Young people have been conditioned by society to postpone marriage until as late as possible, if not to reject it altogether. For those who do choose it, it is a capstone on their relationship rather than the foundation stone. People are marrying later, usually after they've achieved educational and career success, often after dating or cohabiting for a lengthy time, and accordingly have fewer children. This is borne out by OECD figures, which showed that the crude marriage rate in Ireland has dropped dramatically over the last 50 years. Meanwhile, the mean age of first marriage has increased from 26 for women and 28 for men in 1990 to 32 for women and 33 for men in 2015. So in summary, fewer people are getting married, they are marrying later, and divorces have increased. To that cultural background, add the fact that fewer couples in Ireland are choosing to marry within the Catholic Church. And although, according to the Irish Central Statistics Office, we have more families defined as a couple with or without children, or a one-parent family with one or more children, our families have fewer children. In Europe, family size has been shrinking for decades. Historically, large families were common in Ireland, even to the point of being stereotypical. For many Irish people of my generation, it is easy to lose count of one's first cousins. My husband, for example, has 31, he thinks. 50 years ago, ours was a society where families with 7 or more children were a normal part of daily life. The average number of children per family in Ireland is now only 1.38, according to the Central Statistics Office, well below replacement rate. Bricks and mortar testify to this mismatch between our history and what seems to be likely to be our future. According to the Irish National Planning Framework, in Dublin City, 1-, 2-, and 3-person households comprise 80% of all households, yet the stock of housing in Ireland is largely comprised of detached and semi-detached houses with 3 to 4 bedrooms. In the past, you see, our houses were built for families with children. Our planners, however, predict the increasing atomization of society, in which housing units become smaller and smaller as more and more people live alone or in couples without children. The modern tendency, even when it comes to children, and certainly to their number, is towards utilitarianism, to weigh and measure the pros and cons before it can be said that anything is good. There's now widespread acceptance that children are environmentally and therefore morally problematic. But I prefer to start from first principles. And my first principle is that all babies are blessings. So I don't much care whether in weighing the euros and cents or even the carbon credits, the utilitarian scales tip in favor or against children. Children are good, regardless of what the bean counters might say. Against this background of a growing disregard or rejection of family and marriage, many young people have been affected by negative experiences of marriage within their family. So then how do we encourage and give hope to people that not only is a lifelong faithful marriage an ideal worth striving for, but more important, that it's vital for society? Despite what the world tells us, It is marriage that is the linchpin of the family, and it is to marriage that we need to direct our attention. What is family? It's the intimate living out of life together by those related by blood and the ties of a lifelong promise. Family is not temporary. Family is forever. And that's why it needs a forever commitment at its core. Intimacy is also a mark of the family, sexual intimacy for spouses, but for parents and children and the wider family, hugs, embraces, kisses, all meet the need we have in us for human touch. Single people felt the lack of this most keenly during the pandemic. The lockdown culture not only locked people down, but locked people out of family and of society, from human interaction that is fundamental to human flourishing. It is not good for man to be alone. We hear this pronouncement by God himself in the very first book of the Bible. Marriage was the cure to Adam's loneliness. A wife and true partner was what he needed. Even after the fall, when the man and his wife invited sin into the world, they negotiated life together. Their punishment was experienced together, and ultimately their redemption and ours was delivered through a family, the Holy Family of Nazareth, centered on the incarnation of the living God. It was through Mary's fiat, aided by Saint Joseph's dedication and care, that our Redeemer came into the world to atone for our sin, that we might have eternal life. What is family? Yes, it is the unit of mother, father, and child primarily, but it spreads its reaches to welcome others into the fold. At the center, though, is marriage. A strong, lifelong, committed relationship is what is needed at the core. Even with dropping marriage rates and rising divorce rates, families all across Europe still have a sense of this. On special occasions, at Christmas or at Easter, people gather in the family home, perhaps the grandparents or the parents' house, but somewhere stable, a marital home where there is a sense of place and belonging, which provides comfort, stability, and identity, not just for the couple and their children, but the wider family too. The Holy Father has dedicated this year to Saint Joseph, the protector of the Holy Family, and announced a special year dedicated to the family also. So let us turn again to Saint Joseph and pray that our young people and all of society will come to recognize family and marriage as the best antidote to the atomizing loneliness that continues to afflict Europe and the world. For it is through the family that we learn the true meaning of love, the self-sacrificial decision to put another's welfare first, and experience that great paradox that in such self-sacrifice, we gain so much more than we give. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Maria Sin. Thank you for your speech, for your consideration, your even witnesses of your personal life in family, and obviously good anniversary for your marriage that, if I understood well, is today. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yes. So congratulations and thank you for this important speech and the importance even not only of the family, but the family based on marriage. That is a link that link together persons from forever, as you said before. So thank you, and let me pass to another perspective, Middle East perspective, Jordan perspective. I would like to give the floor to Mrs. and Mr. Nejwa and Nizar Halassah, that are a couple representative of St. Mary Families Movement in Jordan. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for telling us the story of this movement and, of course, of your daily life in Jordan, even in this period so difficult for families. So I give the floor to Mr. Halassah.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Sayyidna. Nice to meet you all here through Zoom. Indeed, my wife, Nejwa, and I am Nizar. So Halasa, our family name. And I want to share our presentation with you. Is it okay, the presentation?
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes.
It's clear, yes, clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Please let you start.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us to participate in this webinar. And first of all, I'm going to introduce ourselves. I am Najwa. I'm a dentist specialized in gum diseases and implant surgery. And my husband, Nizar.
Nizar Halasa, I am an innovation and technology transfer consultant with engineering background.
We got married in 1997, and we had 2 children. Tala, she's 23 years old, graduated from Manchester, University of Manchester in economics, and she's now working in London. And Samir, he's 20 years old in his 2nd year studying in Nottingham Manufacturing Engineering. We joined our family movement in 2013. Our team called the Queen of Heaven. The Teams of Our Lady is a Catholic movement where Christian couples can get together to pray and deepen their faith. In 1938, a couple in their 20s who had been prepared for marriage by Father Kefarel approached him to ask about further developing their married spirituality. The couple invited 3 other couples to join them, and they held their first team meeting on 20 February 1939. In May 1949, Father Kefarel says, "There is no better guide than Mary," and exhorted couples to nurture a faith in all powerful tender care of our family, and that every couple should experience the trust and security that little children feel in presence of their mother. The Charter of Ethiopia Notre Dame was formalized on 8 December, the Feast of Immaculate Conception in 1947. Therefore, this feast is also celebrated as Teams' Birthday or Charter Day. Teams was formally recognized by Catholic Church in 1960 by Archbishop of Paris. This was followed in 1992 with Vatican's Pontifical Council for recognizing Teams of Our Lady as an international association of faithful. Recognition was then confirmed in July 2002.
Hierarchy of Our Lady here worldwide, starting with the teams. Individual teams comprise up to 7 couples for each team with a chaplain or a spiritual counselor. This is the first level of the hierarchy. The second level is the sectors. Teams are supported by sectors and they liaise on the promotion and events. Sector team and sector couple coordinate and lead activities. Here in Jordan, we are in a sector level because the number of teams is still growing. The region, sectors are supported by a regional team and couple. Regions may comprise up to 10 sectors with up to 50 teams. This is some statistics about St. Mary families worldwide, existed in 5 continents, 92 countries, number of chaplain or spiritual counselors, around 9,000, number of teams worldwide, more than 135,000, and number of couples more than 68,000. And the head of the St. Mary families here in Jordan, Deacon Jabran, he is with us, and his wife Dunis Salame. Established in 11th of November 2011, and now we are 13 teams. For that, here in Jordan, St. Mary families are sector, and we are in the region of Lebanon. Endeavors, teams of Our Lady proposes that member undertake a number of specific practices called endeavors. And these endeavors worldwide, each member should implement and do all of these requirements as a member of St. Mary Families movement. First, personal prayer.
The personal prayer helps each other, help to have a good, strong spiritual bond with Jesus Christ.
The second requirement is to pray also personal level, to pray for as a personal, and on the personal level. The second requirement is to pray as a couple or family.
So we can meet the God as a couple, be in a good relation, praying, talking, exposing every needs in our life.
The third requirement is to sit down at least once a month, inviting Christ to present, starting with a prayer, and to sit discussing our family, kids issues, all of related issues.
Yes, we sit down once a month under the name of Jesus Christ and with the presence of Jesus Christ to discuss our challenges, ambitions, the future of our kids and the family.
In addition to that, we have to develop and maintain a rule of life that enable your spiritual development. And each month we start our month by prayer, and we start to talk about intent during this month.
So we have an intent during each month. So we strengthen our faith and relationship with God.
And finally, we have to attend and participate in retreat on a yearly basis. In addition to that, in the personal and family level, we have to participate with the other teams through attending the bi-weekly meetings. We have two types of meetings: friendship meeting and official meeting, formal and informal meeting. We have to prepare the study topics that we are studying. We choose a book in the beginning of the year to be studied by the team. So we have to prepare these lessons to discuss during the formal meeting. We have to read the team's newsletter, complete the annual review and recommitment for the movement, show hospitality to fellow teams, couples, and other people from Jordan, from other countries, attend sectoral, regional, national, and international events when possible. Teams, couples with responsibility endeavor to attend the extra mass each week, and finally make an annual contribution for the growth and development of the team. Before the pandemic, we have a very nice, beautiful life. We used to meet in our homes. We have formal meetings, our priest joining us, discussing couples-related issues. And we have a lot of hugs and kisses, and we used to do so many things during these meetings. And we used to join also social activities, spiritual activities. We have a lot of nice stories to tell. but life is changed dramatically, and all of a sudden we have to change our lives. So we started with the new technologies, with the new online meetings. We started to arrange our formal and informal bi-weekly meetings through Zoom. And also we attended sectoral, regional, and national and international events through online meetings, as we are doing now. Indeed, we adopt our life when they opened after the lockdown, when they opened the churches. We used to meet in the churches with taking into consideration health safety measures. And indeed, we were missing all of each other when we started meeting in the churches. And we starting, Shamas, Deacon Jubran, starting to arrange trail cross each Friday during the 14th time. So we starting to prepare the material, to distribute the stages of the trail cross for each couple. It was nice time, and indeed, we have to tell, we have the positive side of online meetings, because we see each other, we talk to each other, we smile in front of each other. So it was very nice. We don't feel loneliness. We don't feel that we are alone. We keep contacting our colleagues, our teams. So it was hard, but also a good time. We used also to pray rosary per week, and we have good meetings. And you can see all the couples are smiling. All the couple are sometimes talking to each other, and it was very nice time for us. And this is our experience from. Yes, where is the screen? You can see me, but I cannot see.
So as I summarize,
okay.
During this period and this pandemic, we didn't stop any of these activities. In contrary, we used to organize many activities, either in the church when it's possible, or of course, under all the health safety measures, or we used to meet by Zoom, through the Zoom. We all meet to pray rosary. We prayed during the tent and retreat hours. Every Friday, we all meet for in the evening to memorize the Trail Cross. In addition, each group continued to meet for their official and unofficial meeting, to be in contact and not to lose their spiritual bond and friendship. Also, we invite different guests and priests or any specialized person to help us to understand the unordinary situation and how to overcome this stressful situation that may affect our life, our marriage, and our friendships. And this is the most important things and relationship with God and the church. So thanks God, we didn't lose our contact with each other and with God. In contrary, we feel that we are strong enough to be more and more and to have our homes as small churches. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening. And Deacon Jubran told me that he wants to brief and he has some comments about St. Maryam movement here in Jordan. Yes, the floor is yours, Shammas.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Sayyidina. Thanks for everybody for this presentations. Thanks Nizar and Najwa, and thanks Maria, Mrs. Maria, about she speaks regarding the family. I want to highlight our goals of our teams of Our Lady, mainly in the last and this pandemic year. Teams of Our Lady help many couples to stay strong and to grow in their married life. It is not complicated, but it is demanding. A large majority of team members have a commitment to serve the Church of the world. Many come of teams of Our Lady to get richer and stronger in their faith and their relationship with the Lord in order to better serve their brothers. Priests who are spiritual advisors of teams like part of Equipe Notre Dame because it helps them with their sacraments and their mission. The combination of these two sacraments is the future of the church. This is our goals of the teams. I like to highlight it on these missions. Thank you for everybody, and thank you for the good presentation that you give it to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Halassa. Thank you, Dr. Gibran Salameh, for giving us this important testimony of family's life, a community, an important community of life in which families can live their faith, their daily life together, not in the loneliness of their home, but live together in community. In normal age, but above all in this time in which relations are being limited, you know, and so it is very beautiful to see also the creativity of families to maintain this level of relationship and community, even also technologies and Zoom that we have at this moment. So thank you for your witnesses. And so without wasting time, because we have not too much time, I'm going to give the floor to another perspective, Hungarian perspective, told us by Mr. Kalman Deboci. I don't know if I have not made a mistake about his surname. Mr. Kalman is president of the 72 Disciples Movement and other associations of Christian families. So I give the floor to Mr. Kamal to hear from him another perspective of experiences of families. Thank you, Mr. Kamal. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And it's really a privilege to give a short insight of the Hungarian movement and the large family coping with the pandemic. In Hungary, well, we are less than 10 million in the middle of Central and Eastern Europe, but 15 million worldwide. And roughly every second citizen confesses him or herself, I don't want to give a third option, as Christian, mainly Catholics. But a significant portion simply doesn't care about religion. In the National Assembly, conservatives possess 2/3 majority, 3 times in a row, giving substantial hope and support for life and family protection issues. In this social and political environment, it was asked by Cardinal Erdő Péter only some years ago to build an ecosystem of value-based civil communities of different professions, and not by chance as a Catholic. The 72 Disciples Movement was established as a new form of Catholic action in Hungary, where the guiding principle is the applied care of creation in every dimension. And everything has been developed step by step. New working groups, communities, collaboration were introduced and managed until 2020. And then came a tiny little virus called COVID-19 and disarranged our life for years. What lessons can we learn and have learned so far? Let me sum it up briefly without deeper explanation in 10 steps. First, fear and anxiety moved to our homes and hearts. We face new situation, even in the church, when it was open at all, and frustration, and sometimes confusion. And don't blame yourself not finding appropriate answers and solutions at once. It is totally extreme period. It is likely wartime. So take your time and don't be impatient to yourself. As a manager and as a leader, it is simply a nightmare. Our leadership meeting was and should be something like this, as we have just seen in the previous presentation. But the distance between us has begun to grow. Mask-covered faces, smiles, and emotions were hard to detect and decode. And then we went online, and close staff members became small pictures, just like now. And maintaining leadership integrity requires much more energy in communication, especially on bilateral level. And we are not here to complain, but to help each other by sharing hard-won experiences. Doors had to be closed everywhere, so we opened new windows to communicate. This is a commercial spot, but our website was redesigned, reinforced, new CRM, a customer relation management system and mailing system was introduced. Our presence on social media was skyrocketing, followers has doubled, registered disciples increased over 600. In cooperation with Hungarian Catholic Radio, discussion and debates were broadcasted much broadly, and we were regular guests in different radios, TV channels. During the pandemic, we published the Social Teaching, a compendium, as an e-book and audiobook. The Health Working Group was very busy to organize with other partners a series of bioethical micro-conferences dealing with pandemic issues. So an important lesson is to forget freely everything about business as usual scenarios. Special times call for special measures. Instead of relatively closed working groups, we focused on networking and collaboration and flexible project-based activity. From these projects, I just highlight 4 to demonstrate that every road leads to family somehow at the end of the day. The Relay on Him, which is a website, a service, a carefully selected collection and presentation of organizations, services, best practices within a thematically organized framework offering 100+ organizations and 1,000+ programs and opportunities. And bringing generations closer to each other, a mentoring program has started where 30+ senior mentors are available for the younger generation to find their own way in professional life. And our newborn kid is the Gaudemus education website designed to help teachers and parents to refuel their intellectual and even emotional tank to avoid burnout. And networking, and networking, we are predestinated to collaboration in these times in every sense. Organized by the 72 Disciples Movement, leaders and representatives of over 30 Catholic movements meet regularly. Earlier, of course, not online, but these days we have to use the online forums. Last time, just 1 month ago, Fratelli Tutti was investigated from every aspect with 80+ participants, 5 bishops and cardinals. And beside of many online activities, I think we all had to face painful losses and tragedies, maybe within the family, among friends or colleagues. And do not misunderstand, but when is it more essential to confront the very basis of our existence? Is it never too late to focus on eternal life and on the one who is the real source of life? And yes, at that point, this presentation becomes personal, but I have to answer honestly to myself, what is the goal of my life? Where does it come from and where to lead? And when Jesus has touched our heart, then spreading the good news will be a cornerstone in our life. Okay, but where shall we start? My personal lesson I learned deeply in the pandemic period that it may even sound too simply, the evangelization begins at home, where we are now. In the Old Testament, you can read, "You shall love your neighbor." And that is very true in the times of a pandemic. At home, after introducing new home rules, routines, and safety measures in the time of the quarantines and the restrictions, together we decided to reach out. Throwaway flyers were edited and distributed to post boxes, pinned to electricity poles, offering our help in every manner. As the result, we received several letters and feedbacks just to thank this initiative to give back the hope for many, stopping at our gate. And in the most critical months, we took care of two elderly couples living less than 100 meters from our home, and the mother left alone with 3 children. And now you can raise the question, how on earth can anyone feel lonely in a large family? The honest answer is very easily. Even large families are endangered by personal isolation and digital temptation, and only carefully managed inter-family interactions can function as antidote. And it is not free of effort. On one hand, large family is really the greatest adventure I can imagine in my life. Much bigger than being a CEO of a company responsible for the capital's transport system. On the other hand, it has its price, or better to say, its investment. An average evening before a school day looked like this at home. And raising a large family is definitely a huge effort. It is like a Guinness record attempt. Does anyone need more adrenaline and adventure? I don't think so. And again, a large family means large logistics, and you have to learn to calculate in industrial scope. But it is not a factory, because there are unique human persons influenced by the digital world as well as others. And especially last year, when everything went digital, home office, digital education, along these topics, there's another webinar. And we have to thank the invisible superheroes struggling at home and the teachers on the other side of the monitors. So large family is simply a cost place for many politicians. I don't want to blame them, but that's my personal experience. But for us, it's the best yielding investment. We invest in human capital, but not to create more financial profit, but to help the very own development on someone made also in God's image. And believe me, that the best Christian life insurance you can have is a large family. And the more we are, the more we can help others. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you in Budapest at the Eucharistic Congress in September. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kalman. Thank you for your pictures, above all, for having shown us your wonderful families and your important activities to support the families. And I noticed that you have a great network among families associations, so a very important work not only inside your movement, but even also creating important links with all the network families and all the other associations to create surely the sense of community that even also Pope Francis called to. So thank you, and I would like, I think that there is not so much time to give space to reaction from the audience. I know that most of you have written the questions in the QA box, and I know that some panelists yet answered to them, but I invite you to write down your questions, and then FAFCE organization and secretary will be able to collect them and answer you by email in these days. So I would like, and I'm very honored and proud to introduce to you Monsignor William Hannah Shomali, Auxiliary Bishop of Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem, Vicar for Jordan, for the final remarks of this important meeting. I think that we have seen the experiences of families from all over the world, from movement and single families, how they lived, how they stay together. So I give the floor to you to final remarks, and obviously even to ask at the end a comment about these difficult days in your land.
Yes. Thank you, Valeria, for moderating this panel. It was successful. It was like a Pentecost, where people coming from the many countries, Budapest, Hungary, Ireland, Jordan, Poland, Italy, etc. And we reached to communicate despite our different backgrounds. I want also to thank Vincenzo and Nicola for organizing this panel and for the idea of organizing this panel. The topic itself came from Vincenzo, the issue of loneliness. I was aware of this issue, but really when I read more during these days, I found the greatest problem of Europe and of the West today is loneliness, solitude. And the pandemic denounced the problem. It didn't create it. It existed before, to say the truth. And everyone who got the virus of COVID had the experience of this loneliness. I was infected by COVID for 1 month. I was isolated in one room. I didn't see any person, only I communicated through telephone. And people used to give me food on the door. I didn't meet people. I felt what is loneliness. But through many friends, through Zoom, I communicated with the family, with the diocese, I could meet meetings even. So really, there is a real problem called loneliness, solitude, boredom, and also there are solutions to this modern disease, I can call it. It is a real disease, disability, from which we are suffering. It's a disorder even, if we can call it according to the psychological disorders. Thank all the people who participated in this panel. Thank the couples who participated. Thank you, Marcela, for your witness saying that solidarity is the antidote to loneliness, and for the stories that you told us, very interesting. Thank you, Maria, for your witness, enthusiastic witness about the importance of family to loneliness. And I was happy to hear from you that this problem existed with the first man, with Adam, when the Lord saw that Adam was sad because he was alone. So he wanted to comfort him. So he created Eve to comfort Adam in his solitude. And the creation of the first couple was really one of the highlight of creation. So man and woman complete each other. And family should be the antidote to loneliness. But not always it is so. Because in many cases, the marriage finishes by divorce. And divorce really is the disruption of love. And it is really a modern disorder that exists. So family, instead of being the solution, the remedy, the vaccine against the loneliness, marriage becomes a source of suffering for many, many people. As a bishop and judge in the ecclesiastical court, I see how many couples suffer from the first year from being together. So there is a real problem, and we should prepare people more in a better way to marriage itself. Thank you, Nizar and Najwa, for your experience that you told us about the Equipe Notre Dame, how really this experience helped you to grow in your faith and really to feel comfort, support, and joy in your life. I can reinforce this idea because 500 people in Amman belong to the Equipe Notre Dame, and all of them repeat the same experience of Najwa and Nizar, how being together as a team, Equipe, gave them a great help. And also there are connections between the different teams, so they feel that they are a big family and they support themselves and the parish in which they work. Thank you, Mr. Kalman, for the experience, the new experience for me about the 72 disciples movement. It is a new reality for us. Maybe on another time we can have more details about this experience. I don't want to speak more, but I want to mention one fact that today, in today's world, around 800,000 people commit suicide. 800,000 people commit suicide. Most of them are young. And most of the young people today, they are killed not by homicide, but by suicide. The reason is unhappiness. It can be poverty, it can be psychological disorder, but many times it comes because of unhappiness. And this happens mainly in rich countries. 5% of the reason of death in South Korea, 5% comes from South Korea, although the percentage in the world of those who die by suicide are 100.4. It is high. So 800,000 people who commit suicide every year, it's really a lot because they feel alone, they feel not supported. I would like to now to speak a little bit about this war which is taking place between Gaza, Hamas, and Israel. You may know a lot about the Palestinian issue, the Palestinian problem, where there are two narratives. The Palestinian narrative about the land, to whom belongs this land, Palestine, and the Israeli Jewish narrative, to whom belongs this land. Palestinians say all Palestine should be ours. Israelis say, Jews say, all Palestine is ours as a gift from God. And everyone has his theological justification for the land, about the land. Now, what happened in Jerusalem is that there is a quarter called Sheikh Jarrah, where, let us say, around 40, 50 families live in a part of this quarter. And Israeli settlers say, this land belonged to us before 1948, and we have to take back this land and also the houses. Palestinians are not happy to be disappropriated, evicted from their homes. So they started to protest, and the protest reached not only Jerusalem, not only Palestine, but within the Israeli cities where there are Jews and Arabs living together, like Haifa, Akko, and other cities. So within Israel itself now, there are social problems between Arabs and Jews, Haifa, Akko, as I said. more than that, there is now shelling, bombardment from Gaza to Israeli cities, and also from Israel against some houses and towers, we call them, many floors in Gaza. Many people are killed from both sides, and I don't believe that there is now a solution for this problem, because every 2-3 years we witnessed a war between Israelis and the people of Gaza, and we know who is the strongest and who is the weakest. So the problem is ideological, and really it needs an ideological solution before reaching harmony in the Holy Land. I don't believe that there will be peace very, very soon. For the reasons, you know, we have two narratives. So I invite you to pray for what we call for, I forget the word in English, truce, for a truce between the two sides. I believe that prayer brings a lot of support to us. So thank you for your solidarity with us and for asking me to speak about this dramatic situation. I could speak to the parish priest of Gaza just 10 minutes before entering into the Zoom. He is safe, the community is safe, but they can't sleep the night because the shelling takes place mainly in the night. This is not the first war he's experienced. This is the 4th war within 10 years. So it's really dramatic. And after each war, there is reconstruction. And who pays the reconstruction? Many Christians, many Christian foundations, among which Church in Need. So when I heard you, Marcela, speaking about helping Iraq, I remember how much Church in Need came to the rescue of the people of Gaza. I remember Father Alemba, you may know him. He called me once after Gaza-Israel war, just 1 week after the war. Before I contacted him, he told me, I know that you need money. I have 50,000 euros for Gaza, so give me a project. Generally, we ask projects to Church in Need, but on that day, Father Alemba, in a movement of solidarity, said, we have to give you immediately 5,000 euros, so please give me the way you will spend it. I said, we have many people without houses after the shelling, so we need to build in a hurry small houses for these peoples from wood, so this money can help us. I thank you all for participating in this panel. It was useful, despite the different cultures, backgrounds, languages from which we are coming. But it was useful. I thank the organizers for this effort, which I consider very successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Monsignor Shomali. Thank you even for telling us the experience in these days in your land in Israel, among Palestinians and Israelis. It is very important for us even to felt closer to the families in these days. So I would like to thank you all participants for being with us today, for your intervention, for your precious witnesses. I remind you that we are going to celebrate on Saturday the International Day of Families that year is inside the framework of Amoris Laetitia celebrations for us. So I think that for FAFCE, this was the best way to celebrate this International Day of Families, collecting the testimonial, the witnesses and words of movements and families all over the world. So thank you, and I remind you that all the questions that are left in the Q&A box will be collected from FAFCE. So thank you all, and good evening. Thank you. To the next. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you.
يعطيك العافية سيدنا. باي باي.
شكرا. بدعته.
Buonasera a tutti, arrivederci. Arrivederci, buonasera.
Thank you.
Grazie, grazie a voi.
Thank you everybody. Have a nice evening.
Sì.